Chevron and US 1. I picked up the Alma Times, stared silently at the headline that caught me by surprise. Read, "Where's the good Lord now?" Said a twister struck some town, and the government is shutting down while the dead is on the rise. I glanced across the highway, and out front of a church was a message board to save the lost, and on it were these words: if you've never prayed to Jesus or called on God at all, poured out your pain, cried your last tear at a Sunday altar call, if you tried to ignore the world but it's gotten to your mind, well, friend, I'd say, ain't it about time? The weight of what I'd read stopped me in my tracks, and suddenly standing there, the truth was crystal clear. Politicians can't agree, and crime and gasoline keep soaring while the war's been fought for 20 years. I took one look at that headline, then looked back at that church sign, shook my head and said, by now you'd think we'd all have seen the light. 'Cause if you've never prayed to Jesus or called on God at all, poured out your pain, cried your last tear at a Sunday altar call, if you tried to ignore the world but it's gotten to your mind, well, friend, I'd say, ain't it about time we lay aside our differences, raise a prayer with humbled hands? I'd say we've tried everything else, why not give love a chance? 'Cause if you've never prayed to Jesus or called on God at all, poured out your pain, cried your last tear at a Sunday altar call, if you tried to ignore the world but it's gotten to your mind, then I'd say, ain't it about time?
Hello. Okay, so I know we're probably not going to have a big crowd during this live because there's other lives going on and drama stuff and people eat all that up. But I want to go ahead and put this out there and people can watch later if they like. So anyways, this is going to be the first video that I do on what everybody voted for. I put up a little poll of what you would like to talk about and discuss, and the most votes came in for Satanic Hollywood. So this is going to be part one because it's going to take a few videos to, put out everything that there is about Satanic Hollywood. We still probably won't even cover, but a pinch of it. But so anyways, what I'm going to do is I'm going to present you guys some information. Hey, Real Gypsy Soul. Hey, babe. I'm going to present you guys some information. And then if we have time, because in our community it is really hard to try to do a live in between everybody else's scheduled lives, and you don't want to step on other people's toes. So it's really hard to find a slot. So I don't know how long that, I'll be able to do these lives. So I'm going to present the information. And if there's time, we can discuss it. You guys can come up on panel and we can talk about it, and just kind of have some fun with it while we're learning. Okay. A lot of people in this community started following Ernie and stuff because he was doing general awareness classes and talking about signs and symbols and what to look out for. And this Satanic Hollywood thing is going to teach us a lot of that while we go through it. because we know that a lot of the human trafficking that's going on actually all comes from what's going on behind the scenes, behind the government stuff, behind Hollywood stuff, and learning these symbols and these signs that you're going to see while we go through this. Hey, Jumbo. Yep, the signs and the symbols. We're going to see things. And I do want to put a disclaimer out there before I get started that when I talk about these signs and these symbols that we see in this stuff, if you see somebody online or, at work or in the streets or in the grocery store wearing one of these or something like that, does not mean that they are part of the cabal or that they worship Satan, or they traffic children or something like that. A lot of people have no idea about this stuff. So, they see a shirt in the store and they thought, oh, that looks cool. And another thing is a lot of our symbols that were used for good, like symbols that we get from out of the Bible, or just because we think that the thing is beautiful, have been used for evil too. Hey, Jen Mel South. So yeah, I just want to put that out there that if I show you guys a symbol or something, or something that they use within this cabal, within Satanism, within Illuminati, whichever, however you want to say it, I'm not saying that if you have a shirt with this on it or an item in your house with this or something, that means that you're evil. Not at all. Okay. But I am going to show you how things come and link together. Okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to get started with all the notes that I've taken and show you guys some pictures. And then at the end, if we have time, we'll discuss it and anybody can come up and talk to me about it. So I thought, how should I start with Satanic Hollywood? Because it's so prevalent today and there's so many that are into it. There's just so much to show. So I wanted to kind of go back to the beginning, the very beginning of things. And as I was doing my research on it, I wanted to try to find some people that you guys might know who it is that I'm even talking about. Because a lot of the first Hollywood stars, hi Misty Dawn, are, in our day and age, we don't even know who those people are anymore. So I wanted to look at people up that, are still huge figures today and that a lot of people look back at as icons, as idols. So I actually started with James Dean. I'm sure everyone knows who James Dean was. Let me go over here and pull up the picture. Okay. So James Dean lived a short but very famous life. All right. He pretty much started his career, took off, and made it huge, and then had an early death. And still to this day, if you go to somewhere where they have like memorabilia, 50s type themes, things like that, you are going to see James Dean. I mean, he was an icon in his short time. So what people don't know about James Dean, though, is his own words and how he started his career in Hollywood and how he gained fame so fast. And so we're going to discuss that. So in one of his first interviews, when he first started getting well known and, women were fawning all over him and he was gracing magazine covers and men were dressing like him, he was asked, how did you rise to fame so fast like this? And, you just like came out of nowhere and took over Hollywood. And his answer, guys, was because I have fairly adequate knowledge of satanic forces. And y'all have to remember that, this was back when majority of America was pretty Bible thumping Christian. not everyone, but we were considered a Christian nation, and a lot of people still got up and at least went to church on Sunday morning and, considered themselves a devout Christian. So this came as a shock when he just calm, cool, and collected came out and said this. All right. Then he did an interview shortly after, and this was, like I said, kind of like the beginning, middle of the height of his career. And he did an interview with Hedda Hopper. All right. She was a 1940s American gossip columnist. She was also an actress, and she interviewed a lot of famous people of that time. And he told her that he studies The Golden Bough by Aleister Crowley daily. Hi, Fluffy. So here's a picture of that if you've never heard of it. Okay. So now people were starting to kind of see what James Dean was into at the time. He actually got a lot of haters now. People were ashamed. People were calling him a Satanist and stuff. And he lost a lot of fans. But he also gained a lot at that time too. And the controversy that this caused just boosted his celebrity status even further. Okay, so he said that he read and studied The Golden Bough by Aleister Crowley daily. All right. Now, for some of you who may have no idea who Aleister Crowley was, he was a Satanist that was really big on the New World Order. Okay. You can Google him and find out tons of information about him. And I'm going to be talking about him so much throughout this series that I really don't want to just, spend a lot of time talking about him, because there's tons of information about him. There's a lot to say about him. But he was known as the wickedest man in the world. All right. And there was also rumors that in between his writings of books and leading everybody into various parts of witchcraft and Satanism, that he also was hired by the government. And he actually says in a 1929 book called Confessions that he was hired to do mind control experiments. All right. And then also several times speaking, to different people interviewing him, he said that he did intelligence work for various governments, not just ours, but others as well. Yeah, Jen Mail Self, a lot of people do believe that he's Barbara Bush's daddy. And I mean, that's definitely on the conspiracy level there. We have no idea, but she does look a lot like him. So he paved the way for a lot of the, like Anton LaVey, like Gypsy mentioned earlier, and a lot of other prevalent Satanists, that people are aware of and know about. But he is still not the, I guess you want to say, leader of the Satanic movement, because he references who taught him. And one of the people that he was infatuated with was Helena Blavatsky. And we're going to talk about her, because that's a huge link right there to the Illuminati. I don't think we're going to talk about her a lot in this video, but we will in upcoming videos. Yeah, I did hear that her mom went and hung out with him for a little while, which is also what started the conspiracy, outside of the fact that she just looks so much like him. It's kind of like, when I think about that, I think about Chelsea Clinton and how much she looks like that, what's his name, Hubble or something like that, or Hubbard or something. And Hillary had worked with him and hung out with him. And then, her child comes out looking exactly like him, but they still to this day won't admit it. That's what I think about with Barbara Bush and her family and Aleister Crowley. All right, so James Dean lets everyone know that he's a huge fan of Crowley, that he reads his books, and considers himself a Satanist. All right. He also told Hedda Hopper that he conjured up spirits for his acting skills, asking them for help and guidance with manipulation and captivation of his audience. Manipulation and captivation of his audience. He would ask them to possess him and give him powers and stamina and have better persuasion skills to his audience. Hey, Daisy Joe. So let me put this back up here with James Dean again so people know that are coming in who we are talking about at this moment. And you see the little Crowley photo. All right. So yes, he lets Hedda Hopper know material that he's reading on a daily basis and how he conjures up these spirits, asking them to possess him so he can have better acting skills and to captivate and manipulate and persuade his audience. All right. When she asked him about God, he said, and this is a quote, "There is no God, only art, only a composer, the creator of the symphony." He said that he was told by the spirits, no matter what they say, there isn't a heaven, there isn't a hell. He said Christianity was a destructive belief based on torture, blood, and the crucifixion. He said that he chose Satanism because he believed in freedom. He didn't believe there was a God, especially not one that would make us feel guilt. I spoke about this with Gypsy Soul on her channel. And Satanism to this day, okay, like if you go and read what the website for the Church of Satan says, and you listen to something that Lucille Greaves says, they talk about this a lot, that they say that God, Jehovah, would actually be the real Satan if there was one, they say, because he manipulates people through guilt, and that a true creator who loves us and that was a light would be all love, all positivity, and we would feel completely free and not be tied down by any guilt. Okay. Looks like he's scared. His hair is about to stand up. Well, you know what, Misty Dawn? In his short little life, for someone who said all of these things, he was always scared. Okay. So he was going by Aleister Crowley's popular "Do what thy wilt shall be the whole of the law." Okay. Don't feel any guilt. Don't worry about whose toes that you step on, who that you hurt. You know, nothing was off the table to do if it made you feel happy and free. All right. So friends of James, co-workers of James Dean, and people in his life said that he was fascinated with death. He spoke about it in a lot of interviews. Okay. And that he had a lot of decor of skulls and, you know, what we would think of more of like Halloween decor was his like all the time type decor. And when Hopper asked him why he was so fascinated with death and the dead and, you know, deadly things and things like that, his whole demeanor changed. And he said, because that's the only way I will ever have any peace. Think about that, guys. This is reoccurring when you follow a lot of these influential characters that people idolize, that believe in Satanism or paganism, you know, some form of that type of thing, they always seem to have a pattern of living in fear, of being kind of paranoid, but yet they're so sure of what their beliefs are, but a lot of them are ready to die because they feel like that's the way that they're going to get peace from that fear. All right. So to answer your question, James Dean died a tragic death on September 30th, 1955, at only 24 years old. For some of you that never seen this, pull it up. Do I not put it? Let me see. I might have missed that one. Here we go. This is what the accident looked like. Some of you guys might remember. Hello, Lane Polston. Some of, oops, what did I do here? Okay. These popular photos of Aleister Crowley, that you might still see them in stores to this day, on t-shirts, things like that. All right. This was actually at the funeral. This photo. He also had this in his home, and he also had it, or they say, inside of his like trailer of Aleister Crowley. Still to this day, Crowley is worshipped amongst celebrities. Here we have Jay-Z wearing the Do What Thou Wilt shirt. Daisy Joe said, I think some of them do have power given them from Satan. Well, yes, they wouldn't do it if there wasn't proof that what they were doing was working, for sure. It's not all in their head, you know. It's not something that they believe in and have nothing to show for. It's just, it never seems to work out for any of them. There's they got the 21 club, 24 club, the 27 club. There's these different clubs where they say, you know, that all these celebrities have been murdered, suicided, and everyone wants to think that it is the people that they work for in Hollywood that's doing it to them. And in some cases it could be. But I think if you go and you look back at that one famous blues guy, does anybody remember what his name is right now? Something Jackson. Was it Sammy? I've got too much information in my brain. But he was very popular blues singer and player that wanted to be famous. So he told everyone that he sold his soul, that he made a deal with the devil. And he did become famous, but he also died at a very early age. Sadly, some of the Christian music bands need to be looked into. People would be shocked. Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. So now we're going to go over real quick, and I'm almost done, guys, and then we can talk. Who influenced James Dean's career? Okay. You find the picture that I had. I think some of the photos that I thought I uploaded did not. All right, here we have Natasha Rambova. All right, she was a Hollywood costume and set designer. She was also an occasional actress, and she was one of the first known people of that day who used spirit writing on a regular basis. Okay. She was known to go into a trance and then start writing what came to her while having a trance. And she did call on, well, she would say the spirits, and then she would also say forces to enter into her. And it would freak people out around her who didn't know what was going on, because her eyes would flutter and stuff, like, pretty much like what we've seen in the movies and stuff is what they were saying that went on. And then she would write and write and write and write until she was flat exhausted and pass out. All right. And then the next day she would either herself type up what she wrote, or she would pay someone to do it. And she would give her writings over to these directors. All right. And what she was writing was scripts for movies, for television shows. And the directors just loved it. They didn't care that they thought that she was freaky or she was crazy. They didn't care, because they loved what she wrote and what these scripts were, and they would run with it. And these movies were making it really big. All right. So she became friends with an actress named Mae West. Some of you might know who I'm talking about. Let me grab a picture of her. This is Mae West here. All right. She became friends with Mae West, and she taught witchcraft to Mae West, and how to conjure up spirits and how to do the spirit writing. So Mae would also, once she felt confident, she started to conjure up these spirits. And she told us in an interview that she let herself become possessed by them, and that they helped her to become famous, because she would produce these scripts that would turn into big movies, like what Natasha was doing. And then soon she felt confident enough and sexier, she said, than she had ever felt before, to where she started acting in these movies too. All right. So Mae West started doing seances right there in the studio. All right. When she started to feel a little fatigued, when she felt like she was a little off of her game, or she started to lose confidence, she would make everything stop, put everything on hold, so that way she could do these seances, and she would ask the spirits to help her. Directors, producers, cast members all talked about hearing her yelling, "Forces, forces, help me, help me." Okay. Sometimes she'd be saying, "Help me," with her acting skills. Sometimes she would be saying, "Help me," with writing scripts, because she would write whenever she had downtime. All right, let me check comments really quick. Yes, that's it. Robert Johnson, right? Okay, so these are two women that helped mold James Dean, helped him at the start of his career, and taught him this art that he fully believed in, and it worked, but for a short period of time. Okay. Now, we know what happened with James Dean. He passed away early. Natasha and Mae ended up living a life of, well, they were also paranoid. They were also in fear. They had mental illnesses. People thought they were absolutely crazy because they would act that way. They could get up and they could perform and be absolutely amazing, and then off stage shun everyone away so they could have this time with their spirits and stuff. And they would ramble and they would say crazy things, and they become They became kind of unreliable at times. And there was never any like real loves or, great things that they did to help people, unless you want to count the people that they brought in to also become celebrities and learn their arts. I'm talking about like actual real charitable things, let's just say their lives were surrounded in darkness. They weren't happy people. Nothing was ever good enough. Okay. So another person, this is the last person that I'll bring up in this video, and might shock a lot of you, and I hope it isn't offending anybody, was Lucille Ball. Okay. She was a big fan. She would come and she would watch. And after watching, she said, I want to be like these women. And somehow or another, she was able to kind of make friends with them. And then she said in an interview that after a show and meeting I can't remember which lady it was that she met, if it was Natasha or May. I say it was May though. She said that she went to bed at night and she was woken up in the middle of the night by a spirit, and that spirit told her that she can do just like they were doing. She could be that. All right. So she said that, okay, she was going to try for it. She was going to do it. And she went to the studios and pretty much, talked her way into giving her a shot. And it worked. And then later on, she was asked, who did she think that the spirits were that were waking her up at night and telling her that she was going to be the next big celebrity? And she said it was the spirit of Carol Lombard, who's pictured here. She said she knew it was her and that she possessed her to become everything that she was. All right. She also got heavily into the occult and followed the practices that James Dean practiced, that Natasha practiced, and that Mae West practiced. I actually had no clue. As many as documentaries as I've watched, as many as books that I've read, I had no clue about Lucille Ball. She just seemed the funniest and the sweetest. I never would have guessed. But I saw this on a poster at Spencer's. And I thought, what in the world? Why would they do that to I Love Lucy? That's so rude. I mean, can't they sue that company for defamation and slander or libel, whatever, to say that about Lucille Ball? And I wrote notes on it and came home and did research and study. And then that's when I found out that the reason that the company is able to get away with making posters like this and putting this on shirts and marketing it is because she was indeed a Satanist. So yeah, that was unfortunate to learn, a letdown. Here's some more photos that I found of Mae West. We see this stuff still to this day, with Beyonce and Katy Perry, Madonna. The list just goes on and on. But guys, this isn't anything new. This was going on back in the 20s, 30s, and 40s in Hollywood as well. Here we see her as a butterfly. And we're going to get all into the Monarch program and stuff later on and why they use butterflies a lot. A lot of you may know, but we're still going to go over that for some who don't. But yeah, still in black and white here, and we already have it. All right. So now you guys kind of get an idea what this is going to be about. I'm going to go starting, today was like 20s, 30s, and 40s, a little bit into the 50s. Next episode is going to be more like 50s, 60s, and 70s. And I'm going to try to include more people and, have more photos for you, and maybe even figure out how that people upload the little video things so we can watch some videos together too. And then I'll just continue until we get till today's time. But that was just kind of a short one that I put together to kind of get it started with as far back as I can find that for sure Satanism was happening in very early on Hollywood, and that from the very beginning, movies and TV shows that were put out were influenced by these spirits conjured up by these famous people of that time that were followers of Aleister Crowley. Does anybody want to come up and discuss any of this with me? Put their thoughts in on it, maybe add to it a little bit. If so, I will put the link out. If not, then we'll conclude this one, and I'll try to have the next one out for you guys in a few days. Lane Tolson said, I don't know about Lucy. Oh. What did Lucy do? Lucy was influenced by Mae West and Natasha. Mainly Mae West, though. She was a huge follower of Carol Lombard, who was also... Now, Carol never flat out came out and said that she was a Satanist. She called herself a witch. But she did a lot of the same practices that the others were doing. And then Lucy believed that she was possessed in the middle of the night by the spirit of Carol after Carol passed away. And that all the acting skills that she got from the spirit of Carol Lombard inside of her. And to keep in close contact with Carol, she had Mae West teach her how to do seances, how to conjure up the spirits. And she saw Carol Lombard as like a spirit guide. So she would do, all the witchy woo stuff that she could to keep a strong connection with Carol. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I was shocked when I found out about Lucy too. I never would have thought that. She came off so funny, so sweet. But I did watch a couple of like older videos, like when she was older, in like her 60s or something like that, where she didn't act like that at all anymore. She was actually kind of rude. You guys could probably look it up on it. It was a late night show that she went on, a late night talk show. And I think the video is called Lucille Ball Being Rude. But yeah, she's pretty nasty on that interview. She seems very bitter and angry, and she says some vulgar things. And even the like talk show host is like, whoa, unexpected. But apparently Lucy was not like this at all until after she met Mae and them. Anybody have any questions? My belly is growling. Yeah, Jimbo, some of these are shocking. And I think as we get closer to our day and time, we're not going to be shocked by the people that I show and mention. But a lot of these older ones that we had no idea about are very disappointing. Yeah, Gypsy Soul. I did read that she was an alcoholic, and that's another thing with a lot of these people who did these practices. Um, they would tell themselves that they were doing it to gain power, to gain strength, to um, be stronger in spirit, to gain wisdom, and towards the ends of all of their life, whether it was an early death or they did live a long lifespan, they seem to all be either alcoholics, drug users, or have major mental issues and become just bitter, angry people. Lady Gaga is another one that is always terrified. They said she hates looking in the mirrors, and she hired some woman that she made. I seen, yes, I saw that. That is so true. Uh, that she does not like to sleep alone at all, and she won't look at mirrors, and she's afraid of the dark. Yeah, yeah. I saw that. Like, she was talking about it herself. And I think that was also on like a late night show where I saw that. Oh, I'm sorry, Lane Polston. And I think that's going to happen with this series, talking about these things. Um, I know that my sons watched iCarly when they were growing up and stuff. And then one of them, I think it was my 14-year-old son, came across Sam from iCarly talking about the abuse that she went through on that show and what was done to her and how she hated doing the show. She didn't even really want to do it anymore, but her mom forced her into it, and all that was done with her to her. And that's how you're feeling now is how he felt. I mean, he was brokenhearted. He looked into those and thought, whoa, what an amazing life it must be to be rich and have fame and so many fans, and all you have to do is act on a TV show where you have fun all the time. It just looks like the most amazing life. And when he found out the reality, he was crushed. Didn't that woman end up suing her? Oh, I don't know. I remember watching Lady Gaga talk about that though and say that she can put on such a show, dressed up like she does and all that, but in her real life, she's terrified of the dark, mirrors, and sleeping alone. Katy Perry is deep into the demonic. Yeah, yeah. Some of them, though, I wonder if they are completely clueless and they have no idea what they're doing, and the producers and stuff and the directors, and there's so many people that go into the production of a music video and things that they come in and they're like, okay, well, what am I doing? And they're like, you're going to wear this and you're going to do this and you're going to do that. And I don't know if a lot of them even understands everything that's going on. They just do what they're told. But then there are a lot that are completely into it, because when they are on outside of making that music video or TV show or movie, they're wearing the jewelry, they're wearing the clothes, and it's not accidental. It's not like they were at the mall and they saw this, necklace with the all-seeing eye on it, and they thought, oh, that's cool. That must represent money. Let's buy it and wear it, like some have done, because it's almost every time you see them, they have something like that on. I think Katy Perry even had shoes with it on there. They find a way to put it into their fashion in some way or another. Or they'll have it like in the background of a place that they're at. Ernie thinks that way he's going to be disappointed. Yeah, and Hollywood is not the way to go. Look, if you're talented and you have an amazing voice, sing. Put it out there. Be an independent artist. Do your concerts, play at places, do live events, put your music on Spotify, Apple, all that stuff. You can make a living doing it, and you don't have to be connected to the Hollywood or the music industry or anything like that. And you can even act and not have to get involved in all of that stuff. People do it. People have, go and they film and then they leave and they go home in Connecticut and, keep themselves away from all of that garbage. My TV hasn't been turned on in over a year, maybe 2. I can't say that. Although I know a lot of this stuff, I'm not going to lie, I do watch a lot of older TV shows. I love 80s, 90s sitcoms, and I'm obsessed with The Walking Dead. But because my eyes are opened, and I know not to idolize any of these actors and stuff. I know when they're putting out propaganda and not be sucked into it. I think if everybody's eyes were open to what's going on, then when we watch this stuff, we wouldn't be so affected like how we see people are in society. And people are affected. I mean, if a celebrity comes out wearing a new, type of clothing in a certain way, it will be no time before you see all kinds of people doing it. If they say something, people eat it up and believe it. It's crazy. TV has been brainwashing people since the first came out. And a lot of movies made were from the CIA. Yes, they were. That is totally true. I mean, even, talking about Aleister Crowley, he said it himself. He said that the world is a stage. They won't allow them to make it big if they don't submit, though. Well, let's just, I don't know if I say they won't allow it, because I do believe that there are some great actors out there that we all know their names and stuff, and they don't live the whole Hollywood lifestyle. They don't go to the parties. They're not part of this occult stuff and everything. But I think that it's because they literally did it on their own without the help. If you want to easily make it big in Hollywood or in the music industry, then selling your soul and doing what they tell you to do, getting initiated, and following and pushing their propaganda that they put out is the quick way to do it. But I don't think that they actually stop anyone from going and using their talent and actually becoming famous on their own through hard work and just because they really are gifted, unless they talk and speak out against what the industry is doing. And then they will say that you're crazy or, suicide you or something like that. From what we've seen, to be safe, I have to say allegedly, but yeah. I don't believe all of the Jim Carrey changing from good stuff at all. I think he was using God. I think he is more evil than ever. And Jim Carrey, in my opinion, I don't know that he's ever came out and said exactly what his belief is, but I think that he is Gnostic. That's what I believe from all the interviews that I've watched with him. I think that he is a New Ager. He's Gnostic. And he thinks that he has it all figured out and that he knows it all. He will point out evil that he sees. He'll point out the Illuminati stuff that's going on, because most Gnostics will. They'll call that stuff out because they don't realize that they are in the end worshiping Satan themselves. Disney's programming. Well, all television is programming. Yeah. I mean, put that one back up here again. Don't believe it about Justin Bieber either. I heard somewhere he has Parkinson's. My opinion on that one, Daisy Joe, is I think that Justin Bieber believes that he is Christian as much as Kanye West believes that he's Christian. I think that they actually do really mean well. It's just that their teachers, their preachers and stuff that they go to and that they listen to are this new contemporary Christian that's really borderline New Age anyways. So they're misled is what I think. And as far as the stuff that's going on with his face and you know, him being somewhat paralyzed and stuff, I think that might be due to the V. We'll see how that ends up coming out, but that's what I'm thinking. Hi, Paula. Be careful with the Christian group Hillsong too. Well, that's what I'm talking about when I said that a lot of this contemporary Christian stuff is really borderline New Age, The Secret stuff. Like I guess I would have to probably do a whole nother video about my thoughts on that. Because I could talk about that for a very long time. And the reason is because I actually got duped into that myself for a year of my life. Hanging out with the wrong friends. Had a client that was huge on it, that argued with me about my beliefs all the time. And because I am such an open-minded person, you know, I started listening to what they were saying, and it sounded really good. And I was going through a difficult time in my life. I had just lost my grandmother, and I was angry at God. Not gonna lie, I was mad at him, and I was just having a difficult time. My lupus was acting up really bad. It was a tough year, and the devil knew it. So he sent me this client who I thought was so cool and totally racked my faith and made me feel like that I wasn't doing anything wrong. Like I wasn't going against Bible teachings. I wasn't going against Christ. Matter of fact, I was just embracing him, but in a whole different way with the New Age stuff. And about 7 months into it, reading, you know, I watched The Secret stuff. I read a bunch of the materials that she gave me. I'm not going to lie that at first it did make you feel a little free. It did. It was exciting. You know, it was, so I couldn't get enough. I kept studying because it teaches the Bible, like, that it's all true, but there's things that are sort of kind of misunderstood, things that are kind of left out. There's more to it than what the Bible is saying, things like that. And so I didn't think I was really doing anything wrong, but I do have to admit that I had a feeling in my soul that it wasn't right, you know. So I was kind of in an argument with myself all the time. But I didn't want to stop because, like I said, it was exciting. Um, it just was fun, really. And I thought, well, goodness, I'm going to give this my all. You know, if we can put out positive thoughts and we can manifest something to happen in our life, you know, by just being this good person and helping other people and, you know, balance the scales in our favor through positivity, shoot, I can spend a lot of time on that. I have insomnia, you know, so I'll just meditate and manifest constantly, and do all the good works that I can do in the meantime. So that way, you know, Lady Luck shines down on me. Karma is happy with me and gives me what I manifest. Well, it didn't work. um, and instead, what ended up happening was, like, some of these people that were doing more like hardcore actual, you know, like Satanism stuff, I started getting to the point where I was scared of the dark. I started getting where I was doubting things, and then I was terrified that I had messed up, that I did wrong. Ugh, it's so icky and scary to even talk about. But I came across a video one day on YouTube by Stephen Bancart's, and I watched the video, and it was called The Second Coming of the New Age. And pretty much he explained why all of that stuff that I had just recently been into was really a light version of Satanism, and where it came from, how it got started, and how it ended up getting turned into, looked at more as good witchcraft, white witchcraft, and then how it made its way into the Christian church even. I mean, how many times have you guys seen pastors like Joel Osteen, Joyce Meyer, and others get up there and tell you guys that if you do your tithes, and if you pray hard enough, and if you do good works, and if you do this, and if you do that, and you do this, that God's gonna bless you. You know, he'll heal you completely, or he'll make you rich, you know, or that thing that you've been really wanting, he's gonna make it happen for you, just because you paid your tithes, you gave a little extra, you came faithfully, you prayed hard enough, you manifested it through your good works. Okay? It is literally the exact same thing that the Illuminati teaches their people. All right? It is the whole New Age thing. It is astrology, all combined. They just take away the things that Helena Blavatsky and Anton LaVey and Aleister Crowley and so many more ahead of them, all the way back to, you know, ancient Sumeria and the Egyptians under Horus, and all kinds of pagan teachings from the beginning of time taught. All right, the ancient religions of their days. They changed it around into adding biblical terms and change the words just enough from what the words that they used to use into new Christian biblical sounding words, but it's all the same old stuff. And that's what, Daisy Joe was talking about, Hillsong. Well, there you go. I tried to sit through some of the teachings that they did during a like mission event or something, and I listened to them, and it was just a new age inspirational message is what it was. And I'm sorry, but if anybody has ever actually tried that stuff for a while, it doesn't work. Now, like Janelle South was saying earlier, when you're doing the Satanism stuff, like, some of these Hollywood stars were doing, where they seriously sell their souls to the devil, and they do these rituals and all sorts of, witchcraft things and stuff. They find power in that. They do gain the fame. They do gain the confidence. They, it seems to, for a while, to work in their favor. So they're sucked into it and they get obsessed with it, and they, believe that this must be the real thing because look at what I'm seeing happen because of the things that I'm doing. But that's because they are like going that extra mile, Alicia, have you heard of Madison Marquette? I think that's her name. It's not ringing a bell to me, but I can definitely look it up. But when you're into like the New Age movement stuff, all right, there will be things that they do within there that is just enough to keep you going, Like, how many of you guys have ever read a horoscope and then you're like, that day, something in that horoscope comes true, and you're like, oh my gosh, there really must be something to this because what that horoscope told me was going to happen happened. And then you get sucked in, okay, into where you get into the whole numerology thing, and you're looking up, what does this number mean for me, and what does this message mean for me, and this and this and this. There's so much to all of that if you focus on it all, it will completely take you away from God itself and a relationship with Him, because you start looking towards these spirits to give you all these signs and answers and everything. And it's also I wish I could think of what that guy's name was. He had these people who they get up in the morning before they even have their coffee. They're reading their horoscopes. They're doing cards, all the works to get their message from the spirits before they even start their day. Okay. They were, pretty much obsessed with it. This was their religion, right? They say that they have no religion, that they're just spiritual, but no, this was their religion. And he played with them. He brought them in. He was going to test their spirit guides, okay, and see, like, I'm trying to picture in my head on how it all went down, but he was going to, like, see if they could be deceived easily. So what he ends up doing is he gives, like, the Libra a Virgo horoscope, The Scorpio, he gives it like a Taurus horoscope to, and he lets them do their readings and stuff like that. And they're all set on pretty much sure through the help of their spirit guide and the horoscope they read, they're all pretty much sure how things are going to go down that day. All right. So the day unfolds, they're all followed around and they're all, look, you remember when my horoscope said this was going to happen today? And this was like, it just did, blah, 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 the whole time the viewer is knowing that they were given the wrong horoscope, and and there was something too with the cards that I can't remember how that went down. But they did this for 10 straight days, okay? And they didn't even know. Not one of them had no idea that they were being tricked. And yet they still kept seeing what they wanted to see throughout their day and thinking that their spirit guide once again helped them, long story short, the conclusion was they were all told. Few of them tried to make excuses, and they're all like, well, that's because, I might be a Scorpio, but I have a Gemini moon, and I have this planet and this, and and then others were all like, oh my goodness, wow. I mean, there were some that were like, they could not believe it, and they were, highly disappointed. And then the guy who was doing the experiment on them said, do you think it's possible that when these horoscopes and stuff are written, that they're written in a way where everybody could, find what they want out of it? And it's very general, okay, is what he was getting at. And then if it's not like that day so general or something, do we not live our life that day after we read what to be in store for us that day to kind of push it to happen, to kind of make it happen in a way? And then he shows clips where he proves that these men and women did that they pushed things to kind of happen. They went to certain places, they talked to certain people, blah, 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 to kind of force things to happen the way that their cards or their horoscope told them that it was going to go down that day. So they were all completely fooled. And it seemed like it was kind of a 50-50 thing, where about 50% of them were, after that proved to them that it was all garbage and they were done with it. And then the other half had all these excuses as to why, things went the way that they did, and they were not going to give up. But I'll end it there, guys, because I could ramble and ramble about this stuff for forever. And, a lot of it is my opinion. A lot of it is just what I learned through experience. And then, just research and study. And I want to give it over to you guys, and I want to hear your thoughts and your opinions on it. I'm going to try to do the next show probably, let's say, Monday, and go into more of like 60s, 70s, early 80s stars and see where the signs and the symbols and stuff were during that time. So I hope everybody enjoyed this. Thank you for coming and watching, and probably see you guys back Monday with part 2. Love you all. See you later.